Well, it's 4:30. I'm going to call this meeting of Dunn County's Judiciary and Law Committee to order on April 25th, 2022. Present are myself, John Calabrese, Supervisor Tom Gilbert, Supervisor Luke Wilsey, Supervisor Bob Bauer, Supervisor Carl Vandermeulen, along with several department heads. First, let's see. Third item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, so we'll need a motion for that. Got Carl Vandermeulen and Bob Bauer first and second. Did anybody have any comments about the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes from the March 28th meeting? See, yeah. Right. Thank you. All right. Number 4, public comments. Do we have any public comments?
No, there was none.
Okay, no public comments. Okay, now item number 5 on the agenda are the staff reports. And first is the courts, and we have Katie from the clerk of courts.
Yeah, yep. So I'll just do like a little introduction. I'm Katie Shalley. I'm the clerk of court here in Dunn County. For those of you new board members, a little bit about the clerk of courts office. We have some statutory obligations. So we create and maintain the court records for the whole court system in Dunn County. We record all liens and any money judgments and provide access to the court system for all the court files. On average, we retain about or get about 12,000 new court filings each year in Dunn County. So that's what our office is responsible for. We also manage all the court finances. We normally receive between $2.5 to $4.5 million per year. Some of the money stays with the county. The rest of the money is also distributed to other departments, state agencies, and municipalities. We provide a lot of detailed financial reports for the county as well. And then jury system is a big duty as well for the citizens of Dunn County that we oversee. We ask about 2,200 citizens each year to be a member of the jury duty. And then if jury trials happen, then they're actually serving on the jury trial. And then I'm also responsible for the entire county budget for the court system between the clerk of courts office and the judge's office. There's 12 staff members in the clerk of courts office. And then there's 3 full-time judicial assistants with the judges. 3 judges, 2 of them are present tonight. And then we have 1 part-time court commissioner / family court commissioner as well. I don't know, do you guys have any questions or comments or any questions about my report?
I'll just comment that if you've been looking forward to serving on a jury, your membership on this committee will probably prevent that because it will be presumed that you
Thanks, Carl. I had a question about your report. You talked about the bailiff, and I think I have a general idea of what the bailiff does with the jury, like, but I'm not certain. Could you tell me what the job entails and if it's part-time and
Yeah, so it's more of like a limited time employee part-time. So they just oversee the jurors. So once the jury panel is selected to serve on the trial, they, monitor them for any restroom breaks, they provide food and just oversight of them during the jury trial. It's not a licensed or uniformed deputy by any means. I know we've done job interviews and people have said, do I get to carry a gun for jury duty or a jury bailiff? No, you do not. It's just a citizen member that has oversight of the jurors that are there. Want them to feel comfortable while they're in the building. If they have any questions or concerns, the jury bailiff will bring the attention to the judge as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, Bob?
Yeah, that was kind of my question as well. I mean, I see you having a little trouble getting bailiffs or something, a little hard to find, but what is the minimum requirements?
There is no minimum requirement. We just do an interview. I mean, high school education is great, but there's no skilled background. We're just looking for somebody that has a flexible schedule. Jury trials happen, but they also fall off the calendar last minute too. So I can never guarantee anybody that you're going to work 20 hours a week or 40 hours a month. We might go a month and a half without a trial, or we might have 2 or 3 within a week or week and a half. So it's It's a very flexible schedule. Normally we find individuals that have been retired that just like to come on in and be social with individuals, but otherwise there's no other requirement. You know, just good personality. We want you to feel safe and you want to feel the jurors to feel safe as well in the building.
Okay, thank you.
I had one other comment about the truancy court in the report. It said in the first line of the that section that it is unique to Dunn County. Does that mean that's the only county that has a truancy court, or
No,
it's just we do it differently?
well, it's not every county has a truancy court and it's ran the way that we run it in Dunn County. And maybe Judge Peterson could elaborate a little bit more. Or do you want me to go into more depth? I mean, there's a statutory component, and Dunn County adopted a forfeiture for truancy, and then Department of Human Services assists us with running and processing the court in conjunction with the schools as well in the county.
I see. I'm just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, next.
What
Sorry,
about
Tom.
sanctions? What are sanctions? How do you sanction a student?
So some of the sanctions could be either fining them or removing their hunting license or their driver's license. They're not going to a correctional facility or anything based on a sanction, but they really just want to have, you know, some incentive for them to go to school and participate so that they can get their diploma. But am I missing any other sanctions, Judge Peterson? Yeah, do you want to come up and talk a little? Yeah.
Okay, well, the truancy court was started.
You wanna push the red?
That's the button on the
Yep.
red.
Okay, truancy court was started many years ago, and Judge Stewart was the branch one judge, and Judge Stewart and Judge Smeltzer worked with the Truancy Committee in the county. There is an overall Truancy Committee that's led by the superintendent of the Menominee schools, and then we usually have personnel from the Department of Human Services as well as all the schools in the county. And in any event, the initiative was to provide another tool to try and get kids to go to school, to attend. And so you have state statutes, and this ordinance is adopted under a state statute related to truancy. The school usually handles truancy issues within the school. And then there's an option that if a person is truant and they're in need of protection or services, that an action can be brought by the Department of Human Services. So a juvenile in need of protection or services, or a JIPS action, which is more drastic than using a truancy ordinance. And so the idea with the truancy ordinance is sort of some middle ground. And usually the school, it could go as a JIPS action. Usually they would be technically truant. If you miss all or part of 5 school days in a semester, technically you would be truant. The school has to undergo certain activities. So as far as sanctions, we don't really have a lot of sanctions. We have sanctions available to us, but the one that's used the most, if it's used, is to a suspension of operating privileges. And many times the kids involved they're not at driver's license time anyway. But really it's similar to an adult treatment court, but they come in initially and we come up with a plan, and in fact, it would be not a bad idea to do a presentation on it. So we could actually pass out the sheets that we use, that we do our orders from. We have a template that we use, and come up with hammer out a plan. We explain to them what the circumstances are, what your options are. If you disagree, you can have a trial. If you plead to the citation, what we want to do is get you to go to school. And so we have a number of different options, and that's usually what we come up with, a sort of a disposition, and they work with a social worker, work with the school, and then we set a review date, and then that goes on periodically. And if kids don't turn around, then sometimes they get sanctioned. And sometimes, and actually Tracy Erickson from the Department of Human Services is the social worker who works with Truancy Court, and it'd be good to include her in any sort of presentation on it, because there's just a lot of background information. Not every county has a truancy court. It's an option. And it's just that there was this feeling many years ago that it was very, very worthwhile to put some effort into kids when they're young, and still you maybe turn them around, because if you don't have an education in this world today, if you don't have a high school diploma, you're really behind the 8 ball. And so that's the overall thing, it's not about, and that's what we tell them, it's really not about trying to penalize you, but there are those options available, and they're on our form that, you know, shows them what the potential sanctions are, but I don't think I've ever imposed a monetary penalty. And way early on, they could put kids in secure in Northwest region. That hasn't happened. But again, it's just a tool to try and get kids to go to school. And so, and Judge Meyer, who was here now, she has graciously agreed to kind of take it over, since we have 3 judges now, to have one judge kind of leading the truancy court. And I do the adult treatment court, and then Judge Meyer's doing the family treatment court as well. So in fact, Judge Meyer, if you put it on the agenda sometime to do a little presentation about truancy court, I think she would be prepared to do that. I don't want to volunteer you, but we talked about that. And but if you're going to say something tonight, make sure you're up here at a microphone. In fact, you can take my spot if you'd like.
I was.
Okay, so I'm going to yield the floor to Judge Meyer.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
I was late.
Hi.
Hi, because I had truancy court this afternoon.
Oh.
And so
Perfect.
we went till 4:30. So if you had questions, I'd be able to answer them. We do have sanctions, and last week I pulled the kid's driver's license. I had warned him. We have financial sanctions, which if they don't have a job and they don't have any money, well, then doesn't mean anything. Like Judge Peterson said, we wouldn't put them in detention. That's just not an option. If they want that, then the department should bring something, if you look at the graph we included, the truancy court through an ordinance is a less intense than the juvenile court petition, less supervision, less invasion into the family, less action. And so if we were going to put them in detention, I would expect a juvenile court petition to be filed. We can yank their driver's license. We can, I can put an electronic monitor on, which we've done. We could order drug testing. What else? A revocation of their hunting and fishing license. If you yank their driver's license, that prevents them from going to work, which I wouldn't want to do, right? I want them to go to work. I want them to go to school. In addition to that, you can order them not to go to certain places, to be home at a certain time, not to hang around certain people, which I would do those as well. And I threaten them with that. Do y'all have any questions?
I guess out of curiosity, how many do you have in a year?
I thought there was currently 36. Is that right, Jim?
I can't remember the exact numbers, but we used to split it up between 2 branches and then 3 branches, and now we decided to put it into 1 branch.
And so right now, it feels like I am having truancy court twice a week because of how the calendars went. We got behind and now we're catching up. And so hopefully in May, we'll be real people and have it twice a month.
Is 36 high or average?
My name is Chris Meyer. I ran for election last year, and so I took the bench in August. And so I have no idea.
Okay.
Yes, the numbers are increased from prior years, I would say.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge Meyer.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay, are there any further questions for the courts? All right, next up is the district, the CJCC, and we have Sarah Benedict here. Hi, Sarah.
So I'll introduce myself and do a little overview of our division. So as mentioned, Sarah Benedict, I'm the criminal justice coordinator. Just got a title change to director, but essentially coordination is the main effort. So we're a small department within the Department of Administration. So we work across departments, across agencies to really be more effective and efficient in the criminal justice system and bring some evidence-based programs to the county. So I oversee our council or CJCC. So we have an executive. So the county board chair sits on our executive. We have and judges and district attorneys and the clerk of court. So all of the familiar faces from the criminal justice system. We also have an operations committee that's really focused on what we're doing collaboratively across the county. And then we started up a couple of new groups this year. We have a methamphetamine strategies work group and a COSUP work group, so comprehensive opioid stimulants and substance abuse program work group. What we found in our time really looking at the data, looking at the crime patterns that we see here in Dunn County, it's largely drugs and alcohol that drive the crime activity. Not all of it, but certainly a lot of it. So part of the approach is if you can get at the treatment needs that people have, you can reduce their chance of recommitting the crimes. So if they have an addiction issue with drugs or alcohol, a lot of times if they're able to really meet that treatment need, they can get their lives in order and move on and don't commit another crime or come back into the criminal justice system. Well, that's not always true. That's really the main drivers that we see is alcohol and meth in general. So we have I've got a small staff and we run a couple of collaborative programs. Judge Peterson mentioned our treatment courts. So that's for our adult criminal population that have significant drug charges that are facing prison or maybe have already come out of prison and they're facing additional charges. So it's a long-term program to really help them get them into treatment, help to get them employed, whatever they may need to really get their lives back on track. We recently started a family treatment court. So Judge Meyer oversees that family treatment court. Similar premise, so really working with families rather than criminal justice clients, but that have drugs or alcohol are at the heart of the challenge that they're facing. We also have a treatment opportunity program. So that's collaborative with our district attorney's office. And she's got some staff in her office as well, a deferred prosecution coordinator that works closely with our staff. We also work with the jail. We go into the jail. We do assessments of the folks that are booked and held for a bond appearance. And then we work with jail staff to operate a reentry program. And we just received a new grant for treatment in jail. So we'll be bringing some treatment to the folks that are sitting in jail doing their time. So we are kind of across the board. We're part of admin. We're not part of the Judiciary and Law as our home committee. And it's pretty typical what you see across the country. It's a neutral position because there's, it can be kind of eaten up by other initiatives or other things that are going on with if they were in different agencies. But we're really looking at the dollars and cents. We're looking at what's effective, what works. And then we're trying to really use our local data to make those local decisions that make sense for us overall. So kind of gave a little nutshell of what we do. I'd be happy to address any questions.
Question. Sarah, you mentioned medication assisted treatment as part of one of the grants, I think. What sort of medications and how do they help with the treatment process?
Well, thank you for the question. So there are some medications out there that are effective in addiction, really treating that addiction. Namely with opioid addiction, you can, there's a number of different medications that you can take in lieu of taking illegal drugs, can help taper. It helps really settle the brain, the triggers, so folks can go into those cognitive based programs and learn because they're not going through withdrawals or they're not triggered to go back out and use. So with the opioid epidemic, there's been a number of MAT varieties out there. There's also one for alcohol. So there's things that are proven to be effective for alcohol. And it can be a pill that you take each day, or it can be an injection that you get once a month. We see methamphetamines as the main problematic drug, and there's nothing that is proven to be effective for that. So there are some promising modalities that we're looking at, but really nothing effective. So for our population, the medication assisted treatment, it's probably a slim, number that would really benefit from that. But we're getting to bring in the cognitive groups as well into jail. So we'll be contracting for those services in the jail. And if somebody can take part in both, that would really be the most effective treatment, to get the medication assisted treatment and then get the cognitive based treatment. Or if somebody just needs the cognitive based treatment. And something similar would be like diabetes. So if somebody has diabetes, they have behavioral programs that they're learning to eat differently, be healthier, exercise more, but there's also medications that they can take to help offset that physiological reaction that they're having. So then those behavioral things can start to take effect.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Any other questions from anyone for Sarah? I had a quick one. It said here under the personnel section that a new position request for treatment opportunity program coordinator will need approval before it can be filled. And has that request been made
Yeah,
officially?
so that has been made through the admin committee. So they'll be looking at that later on this week.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up is the district attorney, and we have Andrea Nadolf here.
Yep. Hi, I'm Andrea Nodoff. Been the district attorney here since 2014. I was the DA in Rusk County before, so I was 28 when I became DA, which is quite young. It feels like time has flown by. So I'm harder with dates. I have to measure my kids' dates and then figure out when. But anyway, I guess my office, we're supposed to have 4 prosecutors in addition to myself. Right now we have 3. We are state funded positions. So we are under the state branch, and then I have county support staff that work with us. And then we have a victim witness department that is, every position is in whole or in part funded through grants. The victim witness department is required under statute to have a program that is there for victims. And recently there's been some legislation enhancing victim rights, which while they had, substantial rights before, they now have the ability to confer in court at their request. And so I guess might be getting off subject, but what used to be sort of frustrating for a victim is sometimes cases can drag on 1 to 2 years, and their opportunity to be heard was generally at the end of the case at a sentencing hearing if a person's convicted. And now they have the ability at any hearing if they are requesting it. But we have some victims who want to be present at every hearing and want the judge to know that they're there and speak what's going on. There's some that want to be in court and don't want to be seen and don't want the defendant or judge to know that they're there. And then there's some who don't want any notice. They don't care what happens. They don't want to, or they just, defer to my office to figure out what's appropriate. So kind of a wide variety. So we have 4 victim witness staff that work with our office. Logistically, it's a little different. They're across the hallway. So, but we are a paperless office, so we're able to function just fine. We do have a deferred coordinator who works part-time, and we have some programs through our office. One's a pre-charge diversion program for first-time low-risk offenders. The thought is to divert them from the system, sort of the shock of, oh, I've had this bad happen. Generally, they'll kind of self-correct. This was kind of a wake-up call for them, and we have them do some community service and watch some video to talk about, the legal system, and then they're not charged criminally. So that's for certain low-level cases, disorderly conducts, low misdemeanor theft. And then we also have as Sarah said, the treatment opportunity program that is used for those with mental health or AODA issues, where they're put on a deferred agreement and then complete the program through Sarah's office or through Sarah's staff that administer it. And then we also have a number of deferred agreements. So I think if you count all of the criminal traffic, ordinance tickets. We have over 3,000 cases, I guess, every year. As far as criminal matters, are usually around 12, 1,300. And so there's just no ability to have all of those cases go through trial. I mean, people on TV think it's criminal system, we're going to go to a jury trial, and it's just, there's just no capability to have that for every case. And so there's plea deals for certain cases. And one of the plea deals we do a lot is a deferred agreement, because generally for especially drug cases, we want them to get sober and stop committing crimes. And so deferred agreements have been quite successful, especially for those who haven't been repeatedly through the system. So yeah, as far as jury trials, I would say OWIs kind of go to trial a fair amount. Those are cases where the legislature has specific sentences that are mandated pretty much, or the judge has a little discretion, but not a whole lot. And so those usually have, some jail time when you're getting into the second offenses, as well as a substantial fine amount. The first at OWI second is almost, it's in the $900 range with court costs and fines. And so those tend to go to trial more, in my opinion, just because of the increased jail time. And now the legislature has changed that for certain offenses after fourth offense where there's mandated prison time. And so, the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th cases generally go to trial. And so I said in my report, we had 2 OWI cases. My prosecutor perspective, they were extremely intoxicated, but we're just kind of going through the motions because they're going to go to prison based on the mandated requirements from the legislature. So we see those go to trial a lot. Child sexual assaults, if there's not an admission, those are pretty much guaranteed to go to trial. Any homicide, pretty much guaranteed to go to trial. And then, we do have a lot of drug cases and a lot of methamphetamine. But since I've been in Dunn County, I think I've had 2 go to trial, and one was last week. And so drug cases are just more straightforward. Here's a substance, we tested it, it's drugs, it's on your person. That's a possession of usually methamphetamine. So those cases don't generally go to jury trial very often. I guess with my office, one of the struggles that we have is given the change in technology, there's just a lot of data and a lot of recordings. And with 3,000 cases through my office, it's just almost impossible, or it literally is impossible to go through every recording of a case. And so we are just overwhelmed with data and evidence. And so homicide cases usually have over 100 discs, and to the time it would take, or it does take, to try to go through all of those is inordinate. So that's been a big change, just a change in technology and cell phones. And when we get cases and we get cell phones, it's lots and lots of data to parse through. So yeah, I got a little sidetracked. We do have a vacant position right now. I spoke with someone who was interested, and then after learning the pay and not being able to get the pay, not interested anymore. So I anticipate I'm going to be short-staffed for quite some time, unless something changes. I think openings and other, even the government or private, are at least $30,000 more than the state's offering for an assistant prosecutor right now. So I anticipate I will be very busy. I've taken on now the child sexual assault and sexual assault caseload. So it's been a busy month. So we're just dealing with that. As far as when you look at my budget reports, the only real expense that I usually have is for experts that testify at trials. And so I have a homicide trial coming up in June, and then another one in August or September, and another one in November. So just keep in mind, my budget looks really good now, but at the end of the year, it could change quickly. So any comments or questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is child support. And I don't know if we have Josie here.
That's me,
That's you?
right here.
Oh my God. Sorry, Josie.
That's all right. I am Josie LaLiberty, for those who don't know me. I've been in the child support program. It'll be 18 years this coming September. I've been the director here in Dunn County since August of 2020. I have a relatively small staff, 6 and myself. So I have 4 case specialists, 1 fiscal or financial worker, and 1 legal secretary, and we manage about 2,000 cases. So do the quick math, that's about 500 cases per specialist. We contract our legal services from the Dunn County Corporation Counsel's office. And assuming Katie can cue it up, I have a short video to explain more about what our program is. Yeah.
We understand that you may have questions about the child support program. What is it and how does it work? Basically, child support is payments that one parent makes to either the child's other parent or legal guardian to help with the costs of raising a child. Parents and guardians can receive services from their local child support office. Here are the top services the program offers. Open a child support case. Locate the other parent. Establish parentage. Establish a support order. Set up payment. Enforce the support order. And review the order. To open a child support case, you'll need to complete an application with your local child support office. And if you receive help from the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program, also referred to as TANF, check with your local child support office to see if a child support case is already open. The first thing we need to know is where the other parent lives or works. There's no guarantee we'll find the other parent, but the more information you provide, like the other parent's date of birth and social security number, the easier it'll be. After we find the parent, then we can establish parentage, if it hasn't already been established. Next, we can establish the child support order and determine the amount of payment. We use child support guidelines to calculate how much a parent should contribute to the child's financial support. If you already have a child support order, we don't need to establish a new one. The most common way we set up payment is to deduct the payment from the parent's paycheck and distribute the money to the other parent or guardian. It's an easy way to make and keep a record of child support payments. When the parent doesn't pay the full amount or doesn't pay at all, we use enforcement remedies like withholding child support from paychecks, unemployment, or workers' compensation benefits, intercepting income tax refunds, and reporting delinquent child support payments to credit reporting bureaus. Either parent can ask their local child support office to review their child support order 3 years after the order is set. They can also request a review before the 3 years if they experience substantial changes in circumstances, like job loss or incarceration. We hope this answered some of your questions about child support. To learn more, contact your state or tribal child support office. Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services at taxpayer expense.
So if you're interested, the link to that video is on my website on the Dunn County page if you want to watch it again. But some of the other comments that I have about our program is a lot of people, I think the child support program sometimes gets a bad rap, or maybe it's just my perception that it gets that way, but because people tend to jump to the enforcement and find that process adversarial. They assume that we're pro-mother and anti-father, and all of that is completely inaccurate. The laws and policies apply equally to both parents. It just depends on who has the child. And our sanctions are intended to be remedial, never punitive. And then lastly, in addition to the enforcement, I think one of the most important things we do is adjudicate legal parentage for the children of unwed mothers. 40% of children born in this country and the state of Wisconsin are born to unwed mothers. So we help to, figure out who that father is and get his name on the birth certificate. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Josie? I had a quick one.
Sure.
Now that I know your name. And your face. I saw on the chart that, where is it here? That maternity establishment rate is 101.16%.
Yes.
How does that happen?
Well, lucky for you guys, I'm presenting my annual report at next month's board meeting. So you're going to learn more about my program than you ever cared to know. But the reason why that measure can be more than 100% is that they are comparing the number of paternity cases that were adjudicated this year to the number of paternity cases or children that needed paternity established at the end of the prior fiscal year. And so the math can actually be more than 100%.
That's a good job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. We have emergency management 911. And we have Director Gillenbach.
Yep.
Gillenbach, thank you.
My name is Melissa Gillenbach. I am the Director of Emergency Management and Emergency Communications. I have been the director since 2005, when those two departments were somewhat put together. They've been kind of bounced around a lot in the past, but we have been pretty steady since 2005. So first I will talk a little bit about the communications division. So the Communications Center, as we know it now, was established in 1995. Prior to that, the Menominee Police Department and the Dunn County Sheriff's Department had their own dispatch centers. So we combined in 1995. And as a combined dispatch center, we dispatch for 7 law enforcement agencies, 7 fire agencies, and 3 EMS agencies, and then also the Dunn County First Responders, which is a program out of the sheriff's office. We have a staff of 12 telecommunicators and then 1 duty supervisor. We currently are short 1 telecommunicator. Hope to fill that vacancy sometime here mid to late summer, as we just hired a girl last week. So she'll be in training for about 16 weeks. Some of the projects that we're currently working on in the dispatch center are NG 911, which John asked about a little bit earlier. And that is just the newest technology that will allow us to receive videos, texts, different things like that from callers when they call into the communications center. Currently, it's just the phone that we're able to accept those things on. So we'll be able to accept videos and text messages from callers in the near future. Some other things that I know some of the members that have been on the board previously that we've talked about is improving the infrastructure in Dunn County to increase communications with law enforcement and fire and EMS. Dunn County is kind of a long county, and there's lots of hills and things that can obstruct our communications. So that is a project that we're also working on. Primarily the northwest portion of Dunn County seems to be a problem for both law enforcement and fire EMS. So we're kind of watching that area and seeing what we can do to improve communications. But the radio system that we currently have was put into place in 2015, and it was a statewide system that was offered to counties to use on a daily use basis. Currently, right now, the state of Wisconsin is going through restructuring of that radio system. And so they've got some RFPs out there to look at what we can purchase to replace this current system. So Dunn County is just kind of going through that process with the state, and we'll see what they come up with and what that may, what that may help us with for coverage, but also how it's going to affect fiscally for Dunn County. So That's it on the communications side of the house. As far as emergency management goes, emergency management has two programs that we kind of run under the division. And the first one is emergency management and the other one is EPCRA, which is the EPCRA side of the house is basically any facilities that we have within Dunn County that house chemicals or use chemicals. There's a threshold that the state has that they have to either stay under, or if they are over that threshold, they have to have a report on hand and filed within our office, and then also fire agencies as to what they have, where they have it, how they maintain it, what they would do in an emergency situation. So we do work with several of the facilities. We have 23 of them actually here in Dunn County that are actually considered reporting facilities. And then we have several other agencies or facilities within Dunn County that do not meet the reporting threshold, but still have to file their information in like a tier 2 with the state of Wisconsin. So we know they have it, but they don't actually physically have to have a report written and on file with our office. Emergency management, that side of the program, basically we do a lot of plans. If any of you are on any of the town boards in Dunn County, I'll be speaking later this evening at the Towns Association meeting about emergency operation plans. We encourage every township to have one, every village, every community within our county to have an emergency operation plan. So that's one thing we work on. We also work on identifying hazards and then mitigation situations that we can work on to maybe improve some of our hazard situations or how to respond to those hazard situations. So those are kind of the two divisions that we have under the emergency management section. Does anybody have any questions on either one? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Gillenbach, for that report. And next up, we have the medical examiner and Marcy Rojas. I don't think she is here.
Yep, she's not here. She
She's
did
not
not check in either,
Okay.
so.
Sounds good. Did anybody, if anybody has any questions about her report, I believe she says, oh yeah, right here. Not be available to attend today, but she's available by email or phone, and we can get you the number and email if you need that. And finally, for the departments, we have the sheriff's office. And I don't see the sheriff here. Was there anybody from the sheriff's office?
Yep, Marshall Moltoff is going to appear by Zoom here.
Okay.
Marshall Moltoff, Chief Deputy with the Sheriff's Office, along with Captain Doug Ormson from the Corrections Division, be representing for Sheriff Big. Those that don't know me, I'm Chief Deputy with the Sheriff's Office, second in command. It's my 31st year in law enforcement, 25th with Dunn County. Captain Ormson can introduce himself.
Hi, Captain Doug Ormson from the correctional side of things. I've been the captain here for almost 2 months. I've been with the county for 23 years now, oversee a staff of 20 correctional officers, 1 program director, 1 nurse, and some volunteers, and then kitchen staff is contracted out, as well as some transport officers that we have.
Thank you, gentlemen. Does anybody have any questions for Marshall about the sheriff's report? Hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I appreciate all the updates and background for those of us who are new here. It's very helpful. And thank you, everybody, for all your work. And next on the agenda, items placed at the request of the chair. We talked about having a discussion about the recurring meeting time. I know that speaking with Katie, the 4:30 worked for a majority of the supervisors. But you suggested that maybe another time might be better. And for department heads and for supervisors. What's the consensus? We can open it up for discussion if anybody has an idea of a different time or if this works out. All right. Hearing none, I guess we'll stay with 4:30. Is it the last Monday of the month? Is that how it works?
Yeah, the fourth
Fourth
Monday of
Monday.
each month it's been historically.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Number 7, consideration of actions to be taken by the Judiciary and Law Committee. There are none this month. And let's see. Consideration of reports, resolutions, and ordinances to the county board from the Judiciary and Law Committee. 8A is a budget adjustment from the Sheriff's Office DARE program. Did Marshall want to speak to that too? Is he still on the line? Please.
Yes, I am. Requesting a budget adjustment for $1,030 donation from the public to be used specifically for DARE programs related support. Again, requesting a budget adjustment so that amount can be added to the line item for the DARE program.
Thank you. Let's see. And so actually next time I'm going to print up the agenda, so I have to keep scrolling through here and back. I will learn. So we have the budget adjustment. You see it there in your packet on what page are we on? 22. And so I need a motion to accept this budget adjustment from a supervisor. Supervisor Gilbert, Supervisor Vandermeulen, thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes. Thank you. And next is 8C. Come on now. We have Sheriff's Office 2023 to 2027 capital project request. Can you speak to that a little bit as well, please, Marshall?
Yes, in reference to the capital expenditure request, we've been working with Beata on our wish list here for the next 5 years. Been working with her and she's helped us or suggested moving several of our purchases in the future forward to utilize the ARPA funds. That should be included in your packet. The bulk of this is purchase of squad cars and the equipment to place in them to make them usable. Be $39,000 per squad, which is what we're currently budgeting, plus approximately $10,000 for the equipment to be placed within. I believe she's suggesting that we purchase 9 next year budget cycle to move several forward from the 24-25 budget cycles to relieve budget concerns in the future with these funds. If anybody has any questions about any of the other items on the capital project requests, feel free to ask me.
Any questions? Hearing none, thank you for that background. And is this doesn't look like something that we need to vote on presently, or is it? I just see the, let's see, I see the budget adjustment. And then I see just the sheet
I
with,
don't think that it needed to be voted on this evening. I know Kevin had asked it to be placed on the agenda. I don't know, Marshall, do you know a little bit more if it needs to be voted on tonight? I do not believe it does.
I don't believe it does either at this point. I believe it's mostly informational to be considered in the future.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And for the new members, and I say this just because I did not know, and I know you've had orientation, but like that last resolution we voted on, that will now go before the full board after it comes out of this committee. Okay, moving on. Next item is announcements. Does anybody have any announcements?
Yeah,
Supervisor Vandermeulen.
I'd like to announce that I'm very pleased to welcome John Calabrese as chair of our committee. If any of you have wondered, since I've served on this committee so long, why I haven't graduated to chair yet. I was offered, but it would also mean I would have to serve on executive committee, which deals with budgets. And I've lived long enough to know that life is short. And I've dealt enough with budgets to know that I don't want to spend any more of a limited life than necessary dealing with budgets. So I decided to save more time for pickleball and not deal with executive committees. So that's the situation. But John's a good friend. He's a generous spirit, a thoughtful man, and I'm looking forward to serving with him.
Well, thank you, Carl. I did not put him up to that, but I appreciate it. Anybody else have any announcements? All right, and so the next meeting, it says to be determined, and I guess we did determine that. So do you have a calendar?
Yeah, it'd be May 23rd at 4:30.
All right, May 23rd at 4:30, right back here. And then finally, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Supervisor Bauer, Supervisor Vandermeulen. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Good meeting, everybody.
Yeah, I didn't have a break.